Hey everyone, this is Bridget, and today we're going to be talking about what it's like to live in community, in intentional communities. It's a different kind of a video. It's going to be more conversational of my experiences, but this is up. A lot of people have asked me to do a video on this topic, and as humanity realizes that we're not supposed to all live in separate houses, driving separate cars, but we're meant to be together. We're meant to be in connection. Humans think as groups, in groups. We get different ideas. We accelerate each other's frequencies. We bring things up for each other. And so it's really important. And there is this resurgence of coming back together, and many different cultures on earth still do that, and the families all live together. But this idea of coming together more as soul family and communing with a common intention is something that is kind of up, especially in the spiritual community and in alternative communities. So I want to share some of my insights, some of the amazing benefits, some of the things that drove me nuts. I'm going to be sharing it all. So I'm just going to be going through the different ideas and the different frequencies that came up. So I was living in community for probably 6 years, maybe 5 or 6 years. And I lived in a small community in Maui. I lived in a community with my friend Gabe on the East Coast there for a couple months. And then we had our own community house here in Sedona for, I think it was truly a community house for about 4 years. And in those spaces, there were anywhere from about 5 to 10 people living in one collective space at any given time. It might sound like a small number, but it was a small space, and nonetheless, it was extremely communal, and each community granted different ideas. One of the things that was common amongst all of them is this idea between individuality and collective. And I talk about this in my oneness video, and you can go check that out. Is this idea between, okay, I'm an individual, I have my own sovereign energy, my own interests, my own, direction of how I want to be in life, and then also there's the group. And how do I serve the group? And so this became quite challenging because one of the things that happens, so this is going into another thing, is increased telepathy, especially in the places that we've had community. You literally feel and know everyone else's thoughts. This isn't the kind of world where people wake up, they go to a job, and they leave. We're all in the same soup, and we're all in the same soup in these highly telepathic places. And so you could wake up on the entire other side of the house in your own bedroom, but you would know exactly what someone's feeling on the other side of the house, if they're having a bad day, if they're having a good day. What that would attract is this time of needing to come together and resolve this. So again, this is the thing that community brings up. It brings up stuff, brings up your shit, so that you can look at it. So it's like it's beyond the experience of, say, being with a partner that brings something up as a mirror, or a child that again is a mirror. It's having 8 mirrors all at once reflecting different things to you, and maybe you're fine, you're just living your life, you're just chill, but then someone's super triggered at you, or vice versa. And so it's quite amazing. So any shadow aspects on any level come up towards resolution. So whatever those parts are that maybe you're able to hide, and maybe they're not even that bad, 20% of you that's this certain way or has this certain unconscious thing, everyone else knows it. And so one of the main intentions that come through as a necessity in successfully living together is the dedication to work on yourself, is to become more self-aware and to work through your challenges, issues, unconscious things to become a better and more whole person. It is absolutely necessary for any kind of group cohesiveness to exist, because that's one of the things. If someone had this thing up and everyone could see it, but they weren't working on it, then it would drive everyone nuts, because they would feel that energy in the field. But if they were willing to work on it and they were making progress, even if it was slow, it was okay, because it was moving towards resolution. So that was one of the things that I realized was super necessary, was being willing to work on your stuff. Now, there's all kinds of different communities that come together by different value bases, all these kinds of things. But there's so many different beliefs and so many different values that people hold, even if they say they want to hold to a certain value, or they might not be at that level of consciousness. So it makes it quite challenging. So what we realized is having actually the lowest common denominator of how we come together, that we're willing to change and grow into better people, for instance. That's plenty of a thing to hold us together. There has to be a reason to be together, and something that you're working towards together, and something that you're working towards individually. Because in this soup, we can often just all of a sudden become each other and forget individually what we're working on, what we're wanting to become. And so that's really important. And so that brings up another point that's very important, is to figure out who you are, what your essence is, what your gift is, what you're passionate about, what your needs are, say energetically, not in an annoying, kind of super empathic way, but in a way that's truly authentic to you, to figure out those things. What your puzzle piece is in connection to the tribe. And I love thinking about this through the Star Trek analogy. Each person has a position on the ship. They might have a couple of different positions. They might be able to move through a few different ones, but they have a position, they have a role, a function to feel, rather than just kind of being elusive. And so other people can see what that role is, but you have to also know it and embody it yourself. So in that way, you feel super valuable. You have a place, you have a reason to be there. And I think that that's so critical. And also your own individual uniqueness is embraced and accentuated and needed. And that then helps and fuels the energy of the whole. So this is a huge thing that came up. Now, communication, conflict resolution, triggering resolution, all of those things were insanely necessary because everything would come up, right? And so we learned to become very good at this. And if two people were having conflict, then we would be facilitators for the other people and such. And this might just sound like a big shit show kind of mess. And sometimes it was, but in many ways it expanded us so quickly and so beautifully in so many ways. And all the people that we lived with in community, well, most of them were still really close with, and if anything, like extra close with, because we went to these levels of depth. And the funny thing is some things it was just like conflict over like what people ate, and then on some things it was deeper levels. Like at one point for a couple of years, we were all in on money together. We shared money, and then we all shared in on food, and that was pretty amazing, right? And so in that we realized that each person has to contribute something, and probably equally, at least to the basic living costs and expenses, so that there is contribution. And then at the same time that everyone participated in what needed to be done, say like in the community, whether that's cleaning or whether that's certain work. So there's a base level of contribution on a physical, financial, energetic level that needs to be there. And the energetic has to be accounted for too, because there's people that are amazing at holding certain energies or uplifting or humorous, and that is a value in and of itself, just as much as someone fixing a light bulb, but all of those have to be included. So there were many different things that we learned. Another thing that came up is also variety. In many of the different studies, the biggest number of people that can come together and stay in a tribe or group before splitting off into, needing to break off and expand would be 150 people. But that would be that there is some familial tie. So actually right now with where we are and being different kinds of people, it'd be more around 30 to 40. But so for instance, in our case of even just being around, say 8 to 10 people, it's not enough. It's not enough for the fulfillment of different energies and to expand. It's immersive, but long term there needs to be more diversity. And even with we were always in a place with more community or more people coming around, but just more variety I can feel was needed. And so one of the things that we came up with as a solution in the future is to have multiple communities, and people will go between them and switch. So say like there's a community in Sedona and there's a community in Maui, and then someone's like, okay, I need more variety. Okay, let's go to Hawaii and meet with these new people here. So keeping that synergistic expanse is very, very important in this context. Another thing was actually the structure. because many of the communities right now, besides, Dom and Her or some of these other places that are on a bigger scale, are, say, community houses or a small property where people are living in tight quarters. And we realize that people actually do need their own individual sovereign space where it's quiet, energetically and physically. And so having kind of mini pod or mini homestead that separates a little bit too much, but these kinds of actual physical separations will help the person actually get back into their fullness so that they can engage and want to re-engage with the community rather than just being in the soup. One of the other things that came up, which was really shocking to me, is that I come from a very egalitarian perspective where everyone is equal. Like that's a deeply embedded in me. But even going into such things as spiral dynamics, there's even higher levels where not everyone is always. And so this idea of, say, making decisions from an equal standpoint doesn't quite work that way. There's deeper ways that maybe someone has more insight on something, or maybe someone isn't actually able to make a good decision. There's times where there's just different levels of talent or skill or objective reasoning to make certain decisions. So that was something that was very interesting to me, and is still super interesting to me to explore, is this what's beyond egalitarianism and being really honest where certain people are at and what gifts they have to give or maybe not give in certain situations. So overall, living in community was super fun. It was super intense. And right now I'm just living privately with Patrick, but the question is like, will I do it again? Would I do it again? And the answer is yes. I would definitely do it again because it's like family, right? And there's so much, again, synergy and imagination and ideas, and especially if we're going towards a common expansion or a common project, things like that. If there's something to work towards, man, things get done super quickly and super flow. So I really appreciate those experiences. And the question is well, then what way would you want to see this? And I would see it as like a bigger community setting with more people, and again, the individual spaces, and then the collective room to come together and collaborate in those moments, and the ability to be free in how you want to express yourself, to the degree that it doesn't, impose on anyone else, but that you can still keep your individual expression. And then, of course, that everyone is contributing on the deep fundamental levels so that you always feel taken care of and no one's carrying the certain load of, whether that's a physical load, but also an energetic load. Maybe some people are, working too hard, and then other people need to meditate and balance that other thing out. But where everyone gets the availability to experience all energies, and no one's kind of taking the room of one particular archetype or one particular frequency, so everyone can really be whole and balanced on all levels. So these are some of the things that I learned living in community, and yes, I would do it again in the proper context, and I hope for that in the future. And nonetheless, even just coming together, for instance, for short times during our retreats gives me that fulfillment. Getting to be with 20 people or more for 2 to 7 days is super deep and super rich for me. So I hope that this has answered some of your questions and maybe led to some insights around it. If you have additional questions or different experiences you've had or would like to have, share below, because there's many different community experiences, and I had more of like on the small scale. I would be really curious to be on bigger scales. Oh, well, I guess I did live at one space that had more like 15 to 20 people on a bigger property. Again, highly telepathic, which is so interesting to experience and very cool. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notifications every time I come out with new videos. Go check me out on Instagram, and I'll be back next week with another video.